Welcome back to Tarot and Beyond. Today's reading was inspired by a comment from a viewer, so I will put that up here on the screen. And then later that day, when the comment came in and I saw that, I went, wow, yeah, that's definitely a reading I'd like to do. And I created the thumbnail, which is this cover image that you see when you click the video. And I chose to use the devil cards as significators because this is all about self-sabotage and what we need to do to be able to overcome that or to take our power back. And then earlier today, I happened to come across a video which was kind of talking about this subject, which I will link in the description box below. And here's the cover image. So it all just kind of seemed to be leading to the same conclusion that I needed to sit down and do this reading today. So this is what we're going to do. We've got 3 piles as usual, 3 options to choose from. There's group 1, group 2, and group 3. And these piles also correlate to the images that you saw on the cover. So I will insert those now. So you can either choose from the pile or you can choose from the image. If you feel called to more than one reading, that's totally fine. Just take the messages from within those readings that feel like they are for you. Use the context that you have as a divine soul to be able to interpret those messages and to find those context cues that apply to you. Take what resonates, leave the rest, and we will see you in your reading. All right, hi group number 1. You guys chose this particular pile. Let's find out what cards are coming through here in regard to how you can overcome self-sabotage and what you need to do. Okay, so the first card we have is the archetype card here, and it's the Fool. So the light attributes are fearlessly revealing emotion, helping people laugh at absurdity and hypocrisy, and the shadow attribute is using humor to wound rather than to liberate, denial of your emotional truth. Okay. The next 4 are tarot cards, and yeah, I think we will just go into these right away. I was going to say, like, let's leave them for after, but let's just do it now. You've got Challenge Winner, the 6 of Roses. Shoulder to Cry On, 10 of Roses. So I'm seeing a lot to do with emotion, emotional truth, being an emotional support system, maybe for other people or yourself. Okay, we have Opening Up. Yeah, here we go. It's like this willingness to be vulnerable and open up, fearlessly revealing emotion. Wow. Yeah, okay. I'm starting to see the message already for you, group 1. Let's see. Possessive, 4 of Rings. Okay. How am I going to fit this? Let me just move these over a little bit. Okay, now let's look at the rest of your oracle cards. You have the 3rd house, early learning, childhood relations, the rational mind, and communication. Okay, so we've got the rational mind opposing the emotional mind, or the emotional body, I should say. Interesting. Communication. But the childhood stuff is really standing out to me. I'm really interested to see what this message is for you guys, group number 1. All right. And you have the energy is gaining momentum, waxing moon. And Alabaster Tablet of Layla. These cards are so interesting. These were sent in by a subscriber, so thank you so much to the donor who sent these in to us with the through my Amazon wishlist. And the imagery is beautiful. It's like porcelain carved of marble. And the names are so abstract, but the meanings of these cards are really, really cool. So why don't we go ahead and look at that first, and then we'll dive into your reading. Okay, so Alabaster Tablet of Layla. You are remembering at a soul level. You are tapping into greater awareness and our understanding of your highest life purpose. And an understanding of your highest life purpose shall become even clearer to you. This may evoke unsettling change within you, but that change is necessary for a new way to manifest. You are protected and guided at all times, especially when you feel uncertain about your course. You are truly loved. Okay, I'm noticing that they're talking about the feminine here versus the masculine. So Layla is a reminder that there is a place only the feminine can fill. If we attempt to live our lives skewed toward the masculine, we will miss out. There's great value in masculine tendencies toward exploration, adventure, progress, and development. However, the feminine tendencies toward compassion, acceptance, kindness, and mercy are a balancing necessity. For humanity to survive, these dual wisdoms need to find balance and integrate into mature expression in every human heart. So the feminine really needs to lead at this time, and that's the path that they're really talking about here. That's how you're going to overcome. Okay, so when we're talking about self-sabotage, the devil card was what I chose to significate that, because the devil shows us where we give our power away to something, where it is really easy to go into that sort of slippery slope of overindulgence or feeling like a victim or feeling trapped. And really, at the end of the day, it's what we choose to believe in, it's what we choose to invest in, it's what we choose to give our time and energy and money and focus to, it's what we choose to feel on a daily basis, or what we choose to think. So these are all components of how we either give our power away or how we take it back and own it for ourselves. Now I'm seeing here that to be this winner of this challenge, to overcome this self-sabotage or these tendencies, the real key for you, group number one, is really to allow yourself to feel. You have to take off the mask, as you can see in the Fool card here. He's crying underneath, but he's putting on this facade of, no, it's fine, I'm okay, or laughing at the, making jokes or poking fun at the misery that's actually going on underneath the surface. This is being brutally honest with yourself more than anyone else. I mean, I think being honest with other people is important here too, but being brutally honest with yourself is really the key to unlocking these emotions. And that's what the feminine deals with. The feminine is the part of ourselves, and we all have it, male and female, we all have both polarities within us. And the feminine is to do with feeling, it's to do with receiving, it is the sensory-based experience. And the masculine, which we can see here with the rational mind in the third house, is to do with the mind and rationality and logical thinking and objectivity, whereas the feminine is much more receptive and therefore subjective. So I can see here that even, especially with this tablet of Layla talking about the purity and receptivity of the feminine needing to have its proper place balanced equally with the masculine. We can really just see that confirmed through the cards in your reading. So to overcome this self-sabotage, which I can see might come out through possessiveness, you might feel attachments to certain people or things. You might feel attachment even to certain beliefs or feelings. It's really easy sometimes to get lost in our feelings and to get almost, sucked into the experience of it and lose that objectivity of what we really want. Like, I remember when I was a kid and I would get really, really upset at my parents because they set a boundary with me, or they set a limitation, or they were punishing me in some way. And I actually loved feeling upset, feeling as though I'd been wronged, feeling as though I was justified in my anger, and I would go run away down the street and I'd go hide under the slide at the park. And I would just sit there and go, I'm going to stay here forever and that'll show them. And, just basically sulking in my own pee pants. Just having a good time being miserable. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here is you have to ask yourself, where are you, first of all, denying your own emotional truth? And secondly, where are you indulging too heavily into subjective emotional experiences, which may not be indicative of overall objective emotional truth? Let me break that down for you. Sorry, I hit the camera. We can have subjective experiences, feelings within us that are true and valid. It is important that we acknowledge that. But we can also, at the same time, acknowledge the greater truth that sometimes those subjective emotional experiences we're having are not actually reflective of what is going on around us. It's like they're not necessarily justified in an external sense. Sorry if you guys can hear the dishwasher in the background. But they are justified in a subjective sense. You have every right to feel what you feel. And I think acknowledging that is a huge part of overcoming this pattern. Acknowledging and accepting that it's okay to feel. It's okay and it's valid to open up and to express that. And it's also your responsibility to be accountable to the fact that sometimes those feelings, even though they're valid, do not justify you responding or behaving in a certain way or reacting to a certain person or environment or situation repetitively with certain coping skills or mechanisms or behavioral patterns that are, for the most part, probably mostly unconscious. Sorry, I keep hitting that wire. Okay, what is that about? Something throwing you, it's destabilizing. Getting passionate about something causing destabilization. And so there's this, I need to control the emotion. I need to cover it up. I need to hide it away. I need to just suck it up because if I don't, I'm going to get destabilized. And then I'm afraid that I might succumb to the depth of that emotional whirlpool and I won't be able to swim and fight back. I'll drown in it. Okay, that's what it's talking about here. So the freedom that you're looking for, group number 1, to emancipate, to liberate yourself. It says liberate right there. Liberate yourself from this self-sabotaging pattern is really to acknowledge that you have feelings. And those feelings they're good. They actually help you to understand deeper truths. They help you to see these things that maybe you wouldn't be able to see because they're unconscious if you didn't express and allow yourself to feel these emotions. Doesn't mean you act on them, doesn't mean you behave or respond to that emotion in a dysfunctional way. You can feel it and do absolutely nothing. You can just sit there and feel it. And sometimes that's what you need to do because eventually you'll get tired of it. You'll go, okay, I'm done feeling sorry for myself, or I'm done feeling attached to this idea that once gave me a sense of comfort but really doesn't. And then you'll be able to move on. You'll get bored of your own shit basically, and you'll go, what now? And then it's time to actually process those emotions, because sitting in it and feeling it is part of that, but the other half is like being able to connect with other people. So the two sides of regulation are self-regulation and co-regulation, and we need both because we're social creatures. So we have to learn self-regulation, which is not to control and repress the emotions, which may have been what you learned in early childhood, since that was the example I used, was me as a kid. That's what popped into my mind, and Spirit will give me those types of references because they're relevant to the reading. So this was early learning for you. This is childhood relations, and so you want to look at your relationship to your parents. How did they feel about emotions? Did they accept them when you felt them? Or did they shut them down in you? Did they make you feel guilty for feeling? Did they validate your emotions and sit with you while you were experiencing that? Or did they cast you out or punish you or yell at you or ice you out? Maybe they gave you the cold shoulder. Interesting that we have shoulder to cry in, and I just unconsciously used that reference of cold shoulder. Was it a welcoming shoulder or was it a cold shoulder? You want to look at these things because this is how your mind has learned to relate to emotion. And this is what is driving the unconscious sabotage. So really healing this and gaining momentum energetically here is about unveiling to yourself and accepting, validating these emotional experiences you're having, while at the same time looking for support in a healthy way, without possessiveness or attachment, without a sense of competition or feeling like you need to beat these emotions, because that's not what it's about. It's really just allowing yourself to experience them and being okay with it and learning from those experiences, learning from the emotions, because emotions are just energy messengers. That's it. And they speak to the subconscious mind. They speak to what we learned in childhood. They speak to deeper core needs. So the more we can actually listen to those, respond to them rather than reacting, there's a big difference there. That's what allows us to take our power back. That's what allows you to take off the mask and actually step into your most authentic self, which, by the way, the Fool attribute in its highest expression is very liberated and free, and it is able to just be completely authentic and self-expressed. It's also very innocent. And the Fool also makes me think of childhood, because the Fool is at the beginning of a journey. We are all the Fool at the beginning of a journey. So it's this level of innocence that sometimes can be a little bit connected to ignorance too. But the difference between innocence and ignorance is that innocence doesn't know any better. Ignorance might choose not to. Really, that's the only difference. But it's a real slippery slope, because once you decide to accept what you're feeling, once you decide to open up, it's like opening up Pandora's box. And that's what I think might be the hesitation here is, okay, if I open up that can of worms, I'm going to be covered in worms. Yeah, I mean, you're right. And that does suck, but that's why it's important to have people you can co-regulate with, people who you trust, who you feel safe with, who can validate what you're experiencing, but at the same time hold you accountable. Coaches, counselors, therapists, maybe a parent that you trust or a friend. These are the types of people that you want to kind of vet to see if they can hold space for you in that way, so that it is safe for you to open up, because that's how you'll be able to get things moving again. If you felt stuck and trapped in this emotional repression that you've been unconsciously doing to keep yourself from getting lost and drowning in everything that's under the surface, this is the way to get free. And people can help you do that, but you first have to help yourself to do that. And you first have to be willing to do the work, which is to feel those feelings, even when they're extremely uncomfortable. And that doesn't just mean like grief or pain or suffering or sadness, which is, I think, a big part of this, but some of it could be feeling vindicated in those experiences, feeling vindicated or justified as feeling like a victim, like relishing in some sort of suffering or pain of yourself. It's a weird thing. It's like such a morbid and strange topic to talk about, but I think we've all had this experience. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know I have, where it's like we feel good. There's like a little part of us that feels good to feel bad. And misery loves company too. So we tend to look for other people. We want to commiserate with people who feel the same. We want to hear that other people are feeling bad too, so that it makes us feel less alone. But what we really need is not the connection through misery. It's the connection through support. It's the connection through, I actually want something better for myself other than this misery. And I don't have to exist purely in that state to get a little breadcrumb of satisfaction. I can feel the full satisfaction, and I deserve the full satisfaction of real, authentic connection to self, which validates all emotional spectrum. So this may feel like a bit of a mountain for you to climb, group number 1. They're showing me the mountains in the background, but you can do this. And it is about communicating. It's going to be about communicating openly and authentically with other people about what you're feeling. Maybe this means expressing when you have something to say or when you feel a certain way. Conscious communication here, setting boundaries, setting limits, but also paying attention to how you feel and communicating with yourself. I think that's really the highest. I think that's like the most, that's the place to start. Let me just put it that way. That's the place to start. You really want to start connecting and communicating with your inner child, because that's the part of you that may be a little underdeveloped in its ability to handle those emotions. So it might feel like, I can't feel these emotions because if I do, I'm going to live in it forever. That's a very irrational black and white thinking type of cognitive bias, but that's what children think because they don't know any better. Now your adult self probably knows better, but your inner child is still in there operating at the level that it was at that stage of development where the pain occurred or where this lesson was learned. So you've got to unlearn that by choosing to approach it in a different way, which in this case is validating what you're feeling for yourself. Like, I'll give you an example. Okay, I was raised in a home where emotions were either completely bottled up and not expressed, especially negative emotions like anger and sadness and pain and stuff like that. Those were all really like bottled up by both my parents, but in different ways. And so I learned both through what they modeled to me, but also through the reactions that they had to me when I was feeling emotions, that it was not safe or accepted for me to feel really strongly about anything. And so when I did feel really strongly about something, I always felt like I had to deal with it alone. That's why I would run away to the park, or I would go and hide in my room, or whatever it was. I felt like I needed to deal with it alone. And that became the coping mechanism. Was first of all, hide away, repress, conceal, don't feel. I'm giving like Elsa from Frozen vibes right now, but like that's straight up, like that's what it was like. And it was like putting this lock and chain on the heart, like conceal, don't feel, don't open up. It's not safe to show this emotion, because then it starts gaining momentum, and it would feel like I would get sucked down a black hole into a bottomless pit of despair where I didn't know how to get out. And it felt like it was eternal, because that childlike mind and that emotional state are not aware of the objective truths of time and emotional fluctuation and all of that, because the childhood brain is still developing. It doesn't understand. So it just thinks, okay, I'm going to feel like this forever. So of course you're going to avoid that. Of course you're going to want to not feel like you're going to get trapped in Pandora's box forever. But that's not the case. That's not the truth of the matter. That's where your logical mind comes in and can actually help you to do the emotional labor, the emotional heavy lifting of processing and dealing with and allocating these emotions into the spaces that they actually need to be in. Because unprocessed emotion is the biggest form, it's the biggest catalyst for really dysfunctional patterns, and self-sabotage is part of that, right? So the more that we can use our rational mind objectively to draw us back into that parental role when that inner child is experiencing something that feels all-consuming and overwhelming, the more that we are self-supporting, self-communicating, and being a shoulder for ourselves to cry on. And then we can make better decisions about how we want to open up to others to get that co-regulation and mutual support that we really needed to begin with. But it starts with the self. All right, so that is what I see for you, group number 1. I really hope that this reading helped. That is my highest intention, is to bring you guys value so that you can learn to do this work for yourself, so that you can heal, so that you can empower yourself and break free from these patterns. Because if we all did this, this would be a much better world to live in, and that's my goal. All right, guys, I love you guys, and we will see you in the next reading. Bye. All right, hi, group number 2. Welcome to your reading about how to overcome self-sabotage, how to break free, and to empower yourself going forward. So what do you need to do? Let's find out. We're going to look at your cards, and the first one is an archetype card. And so this is looking at the light and the shadow aspects, and this will give us sort of the overarching theme for the rest of your cards. Okay, we have the Hermit. Light attributes are seeks solitude to focus intently on inner life, serves personal creativity, and the shadow attribute is withdraws from society out of fear or negative judgments of others, refusing to help those in need. Okay, next we're going to look at your tarot cards. You have the Death card with the End. Packing up that suitcase. It looks like he's going on a journey. That's probably a good thing if the self-sabotage is to completely withdraw. Okay, good. We see progress there already. Well, look at that. Travel. I was just saying, like, the suitcase really stood out to me. It looks like travel. It looks like movement, and that's not what the Hermit does. The Hermit really kind of stays put in his little box, which we can see even in the card there. But look, you've got that plane, the Two of Roses, next destination. All right, I'm already seeing what Spirit is talking about here. Okay, and then we have keep it chill. Keep it chill. And ITM, I don't even know what that means. I haven't seen this card before. ITM. If anybody knows what that means, leave it in the comments below. I'm not up on the lingo all the kids are using these days. I'm just kidding. Okay, and let's find out yeah, we'll do this one last. North Node, destined to have. And for a second when it said have there, I thought it said destined to move. And it's like the path, but that's the North Node path. It leads you to your destiny. It's what you're meant to develop into. And I'm seeing travel here for you guys, like throughout all of your cards. It's really speaking to me of travel. I thought there was 2 cards there for a second. Okay. And what is this? Take time to breathe out. I like that you've got take time to breathe out and keep it chill. So it's like, take a chill pill, group number 2. You need to just chill out about something here. And we'll find out what that is. And then okay, there's boobs. Hold on. You have Vulva of Sadir, and these cards are really super interesting. So I'm going to read them from the book, but let me just cover this up. She's wearing a lava stone bra now because YouTube doesn't like nudity. So in group 1, I read this out first and then we did the reading, but I'm actually feeling called for you guys group 2. We're going to read the guidebook on this card later. And we're going to start with the message. So I'm really seeing here that for you to overcome this self-sabotaging pattern, group number 2, it is really, I just looked up at the time and it was 333 on the time. So yeah, Spirit's like, it's time to open, it's time to expand. It's time to get out of your comfort zone. The 333 is like an ascended master angel number. It's also about expansion. 3s are kind of like a new beginning, but it's not a brand new fresh beginning. It's a beginning that you've already started, but you're getting to like a new level of it. So there's a couple of things I'm seeing here. So one of the self-sabotaging patterns might be that when you're feeling overwhelmed, you withdraw. Maybe that is through traveling. Maybe you're like, I can't handle my daily life. I just need to like jet off to some other place. Or I need to drive somewhere and just go chill out. I just need some time for me. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that, but I do feel like it's important that you understand why you're doing that, because really when it comes to self-sabotaging patterns, it's really the unconscious aspect of it that is the clincher. Once we make it conscious, once we understand it, it can still be detrimental. It can still trip us up from time to time, but it doesn't have to be the be-all end-all that keeps us stuck in a negative feedback loop. It's more like we can then learn to apply different techniques and different approaches to overcome. And what I'm seeing here is that maybe sometimes you have a hard time staying calm. And then so as a result, you seclude yourself or you hide away or you just take off. It's kind of like, if I can't handle it here, I'm just gonna run away. I'm gonna go do something else, or I'm gonna distract myself. Maybe even distracting yourself with things that you find pleasurable or enjoyable. But a lot of that might be happening in solitude. So I see here that the way to combat this, the way to overcome it, is really to accept that maybe the need and the way you're meeting it are not exactly compatible. Maybe they're not exactly 2 sides of that same coin, or it's not really solving the problem. Because if you keep coming back to that same coping mechanism of isolating yourself or seeking out time to chill out, maybe even drinking, because they keep showing me the glass here, and it's kind of like a false sense of calm, because internally you're still feeling overwhelmed, but you're doing things that give you that temporary little bit of calm. And I think that this is one of those slightly healthier coping mechanisms. It's not like you're going and, not alcohol, but if, let's say, for example, you just feel really off and something makes you feel really vulnerable. And so you're like, I'm just going to stay in my house for a week and take some me time and just relax and maybe do like a spa bath and put some cucumbers on my eyes, or I'll go for a massage, or I'll go to the spa, or I'll go to the beach or something. That's not necessarily an unhealthy coping mechanism. I think that's actually a quite productive coping mechanism, but you'd still want to understand what the core need is behind that moment of reactivity, or that moment of overwhelm, or that moment of, I just need to, go recluse mode to recover. Dealing with the initial catalyst would probably be beneficial, even if the coping mechanism isn't all bad. But on the other hand, if it's something else, like I'm really feeling disconnected from the world, or I'm really feeling crappy about myself, so I'm going to book an impulsive trip to Japan. It's like, what? That's so expensive. Do you have the money for that? If you do, great, but still, right? Are you getting to the core need, or are you just distracting yourself? As these motorcycles are going by, right after I said distracting yourself, loud and distracting, and they move, right? Like that's travel. And same thing with alcohol. Maybe you're not going anywhere, but you're trying to escape mentally and emotionally through the use of substances that kind of calm you down, or give you that veneer of being cool, calm, and collected, but really you're not. So you want to look at, where do you feel so vulnerable that you can't open up to the world, that you can't really feel safe to be out connected to other people? Why is this hermit energy the go-to to protect yourself? Because self-sabotage is not always you doing it intentionally to yourself. It's not like you hate yourself and you're trying to screw yourself over. That's not the case. Even if you think that is the case, that's actually not the case. The unconscious mechanism here is that you don't feel safe in some way, shape, or form. And you're trying to cope with that in the best way that you know how. Which for some might be saying, I'm a bad person and this self-sabotage is just me because I'm crap. No, that's not true, though. That's not true. There's something else going on underneath the surface that needs to be acknowledged that's probably more painful than admitting that false truth of, oh, I'm just a crap person. No, you're not. You might be acting like it and you're trying to confirm that belief, but you're really not. And that's a little bit of a tangent there, but obviously whenever something comes out in a reading and I'm channeling like that, it's for someone. But really what I'm seeing here is like, you might feel like you're not good enough, or that you need to hide away to protect yourself from the triggers of the world, like the world, because it might trigger you, or to protect yourself from feeling that state of vulnerability. I feel like I'm talking to an artist here, group 2. I gotta say, I just got that feeling really strongly for a second there. I feel like I'm talking to like a very vulnerable artist, like you are a creative. And because you're a creative, you are a very deep thinker and a deep feeler. Okay. So that definitely puts you in this position where you can feel more vulnerable over the course of your life, because you feel things more deeply than the average Joe. So you might look for ways to deal with that by going off and living in the forest, or like the world is too loud for me. I'm overwhelmed and people don't understand me and I feel vulnerable and I feel like a target, or I feel unsafe being around all these people and having them project on me and judge me, and I feel insecure about what I'm trying to do or feel or create. So that's kind of the vibe I'm getting, and then coping in these different ways by either being alone or traveling as a distraction or using alcohol, substances, or just like chill time to try and combat what you're feeling or try to balance it out. Oh, I just got ITM. It's too much. I don't think that's actually what it means, but that's the acronym that Spirit just gave me. It's too much. It's too much. So sometimes the world might just feel like it's too much for you, but it's part of your destiny to become more. And sometimes you might feel like you're too much to the world, like I'm too much. You might feel like I'm too much, so I need to just be alone. I just need to be an island. But no man is an island. And you are destined to have these types of connections. But it's important that you first connect with yourself so that you feel secure enough to be able to go out into the world. Because you know what? Maybe it's part of your destiny to travel. I could have been reading this the wrong way. That happens. By the way, if you ever get messages from a reading that I'm not talking about, like just from the cards themselves, take those too. These readings are not just me saying what I'm saying is the be all end all. No. Especially as a highly creative, intuitive person such as yourself, group number 2, you take what messages come out for you, because spirit will draw you to these readings, not just to hear me blabber on. They will take you to these readings to see the images, to feel the vibes, to get the message for yourself too. So sometimes you integrate that with what I'm saying. Sometimes it's separate, whatever. You just take what feels relevant to you. But that's beside the point. What I was really trying to say here is that I could have been reading these cards wrong. And maybe you are a hermit who does not travel, who does not go out of their comfort zone. Like, let's say, feels like me actually. Like you can stay in the house for weeks at a time and not see another human being. That, like, I get it. Like, if that's the case for you, I get it. And maybe you want to, or you're destined to travel the world, or you're destined to be more visible, or you're destined to just be, free in that way. But it can feel really scary. Like, oh, what? I'll have to get out of my comfort zone. I have to get out of the box that I feel safe in. And even though that might feel exciting or freeing or liberating, it can feel really, 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 really scary. And that fear, that self-sabotage mechanism is, I'm just going to stay in my little box because it feels safe here and I'm comfortable and I can just chill out here. And that's probably like the healthiest thing for me. Like, that's what you're telling yourself, or that's what I'm telling myself, or that's what we're telling ourselves, right? Like, well, it's fine because I'm just working on me and I'm doing my destiny in that way. But it's like the universe is like, no. That's a temporary phase. But you're actually meant for more. And it's okay to be too much for this world, or to feel like the world is too much for you. Because as long as you take care of your ability to ground and anchor, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you can still have that internal sphere protected. But you become like a turtle where you take your shell with you. You can go wherever you want and you're free to be able to explore, because your security is in you. It's not in a physical place or location or even in seclusion. You could be in a group of 10, 15, 100 people and still feel safe within yourself because you have that little shell on the inside. And you can let people in there, or you can come out of that shell, but it's always with you just in case. So I think that is the way to really overcome this pattern, because you are meant to be out there. You are meant to be doing something, but you do need some time to be alone to process. So I think that's fine. But you also need to be out there doing things and having experiences and connecting with people and having a really rich, vibrant, full life, rather than hiding away and just focusing so much on trying to keep yourself safe that you ultimately don't keep yourself safe, right? That's the self-sabotage, is that by trying to keep yourself safe, you actually stagnate, and that is not a safe place to be. It might feel safe, but it's not. Because stagnation is like degradation. It is deterioration. That's causing damage. So I feel like, okay, group 2, you're actually meant to be like a world traveler, I think. And that's probably why maybe sometimes you have the impulse to just book that plane ticket or move or do something different. Because that's like part of your destiny. You're meant to be free and a wanderer in a sense. But you kind of have to get out of your own way when it comes to freeing yourself from the box. It could be in your own mind, or it could be like your physical home, or something that you just feel comfortable with or comfortable doing. It's like you've kind of got to push your limits a little bit so that you can really see what you're made of. Okay, let's take a look at this vulva of Cedar. I don't know. Okay. Your inner spiritual power can heal circumstances in your life and our world in ways greater than you realize. Journey within to gain clarity and conscious redirection of your inner energies toward what you wish to manifest. Do not try to control what is happening. Instead, work to bring positive influence to bear so that you may contribute constructively towards shaping the outcome for the greatest good. Okay, it's really interesting that they're talking about shaping the outcome for the greatest good, and the shadow side of the hermit is refusing to help those in need. Withdrawing from society out of fear of judgment, but then not being able to contribute positively to it. I think that's one of the destabilizing things here. Because you are a creative, you are meant to serve the collective, and you're meant to be out there doing things. Whether it's physically traveling in the world and going to different places and meeting different people, or maybe it's contributing your ideas and letting those speak for themselves and travel the world. Whatever it is, it's going to help this world. And the self-sabotaging pattern here of this empowerment is you hiding that away, hiding yourself away, trying to protect. But you are destined here. Like the North Node does not show up in a reading for no reason. This is destined. This is something that you set for yourself goal-wise at soul level before you came into incarnation in this life. You said, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to be challenged with to overcome, to be able to do this. And now I think what you need to do to accomplish it is to just find that inner peace. Find your happy place. Cultivate that happy place within you so that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you are able to remain calm and see through the eyes of optimism and love rather than this fear of judgment. Because I feel like you're such a loving being, like the hearts on the glasses here and the heart. Here, I'll show you. The heart glasses and the heart on her necklace. It's like you see the world through the eyes of love because you are a loving, highly sensitive being. Highly sensitive. So it makes sense why you'd want to hide yourself away. But you are powerful. And you have outgrown this box. You see how big he is there in this little tiny home? You have outgrown this. And he's clutching. He's trying to like hide his heart. But look, it's trying to come out, and she's got her hands on her heart as well. It's like it needs to come out. It is destined to come out. That is the next destination, is to free your heart and let it speak for itself. But you're scared, and I get that. It's scary to let go. It's scary to end things. It's scary to go into the unknown and step out of your comfort zone in that way. Yeah, it is. It is. But this is your path. And you would not have set this up for yourself at soul level if you didn't know that you could do it. So I feel like finding your inner center is really going to be your greatest tool to overcome this pattern. So what you need to do, group number 2, is to find that inner center in yourself. Cultivate that. It's not something that you just find and then you unlock it and there it is. It's like you got to find it, and then you have to build it up, and then you have to maintain it. So what does that actually mean? Well, it's first of all acknowledging that it's okay to be this sensitive. You're not too much. You have a big heart and you're meant to be here. You're meant to make a difference in this world, a positive difference here. Part of that destiny is being willing to go outside your comfort zone and to step into the world in a way that does make you visible. So keep your head about you, keep your wits about you, and keep your heart with you. But put those barriers up. Not barriers, sorry, no, that's the wrong word. Boundaries, because boundaries and barriers are very different things. Boundaries have a gate that you get to choose who you let through for access. You know, it's like the castle walls are the barrier, but the front gate, the entrance, is the boundary. And you are the one who says who gets through. So having those boundaries up is good, because that'll help you to feel safer, to be able to go out into the world and to be seen and to create and to share and to serve others in this way, because it's also serving you to do that. Keeping this all bottled up inside out of fear of rejection or judgment or insecurity it's not doing anyone any good, especially not you. So take some time to relax, get yourself into a comfy space within yourself, and then own up to the fact that you've got shit to do in this life, and staying inside and doing nothing is not what you came here to do. It's time to get out there. It's time to grow. It's time to go. Okay, so that's what I see for you, group number 2. I really hope this reading helped you to get outside your comfort zone, to break this pattern, to take your power back, get out of that box, shine your light, be visible, go do things you've dreamed of, but you never thought you could. Go do them. It's part of your destiny. Trust yourself and have faith in people. Not all people are bad. Not all people are going to see you as too much. There's a lot of people out there who want to love you and who are going to deeply appreciate the sensitivity and the art and the presence that you have in this world. That's what really helps to heal the world. It's not even anything that you do. It's just what you are. So let that shine. Be yourself. And thank you for being that. Thank you for having the bravery and the courage to do that. I'm right there with you. We'll do it together separately. #hermit life. Okay? All right, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this helped. Like I said, I'm sending you so much love and support to really dive into your destiny here and get out of your comfort zone. I love you guys. We'll see you in the next reading. Bye. All right. Hi, group number 3. Welcome to your self-sabotage reading, how to overcome it, what you need to do to empower yourself. Let's take a look at your cards. The first one we have here is the archetype card. So this is looking at the shadow and light. It's kind of going to set the tone for the rest of the cards that we have. Oof. Okay. Rough start. We got slave. The light attribute is surrendering your power of choice to the divine with complete trust. And the shadow attribute is giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choices. And so you can see her kind of being held up by strings, like she's a puppet. And one of them is aligned with divine will, where you're surrendered and you're still in a state of empowered control, but you are allowing that divine will to work with you. And the other is not trusting yourself, and so giving up your power of control to somebody who really doesn't maybe have your best interests at heart. Okay. So look at your tarot cards now. You have Queen of Rings, the single mom. Oh, look at that cute little lunch. Have a fun day, love. That's so sweet. It feels very put together. That's kind of the first impression I'm getting from that card. It's like, I've got everything organized and everything's planned out, prepared. It feels like everything needs to be controlled. But let's get more information. We have the King of Rings, the jeweler. Queen and King of Rings, counterparts here. It's like two sides of the same coin. And I'm getting that same energy of like everything needs to be very precise and controlled and like detail oriented. It's like detail, you know? Okay, let's see. 10 of Rings, lots of rings, hometowns. Huh. Yeah, I'm getting like symmetry, balance. It's like everything needs to be in order. This is, yeah, it's giving me like a little bit OCD, or just like a control freak or a neat freaker, or maybe one of your self-sabotaging mechanisms is that you really feel like you need to control everything because on some level you feel like things are out of your control. And so you become a slave to this need for control in an external way. Being super prepared, being super on the ball all the time, and having everything look put together. But underneath is really that thin veneer of control, is that overwhelm, stress, and feeling of helplessness at being sort of thrashed around by the waves and currents of life. Oof. It was a tough reading. Ooh, look at that. The cliffhanger, to be continued. It's like Looney Tunes, like, that's all, folks, except for it says to be continued. So it's like that's not all, folks. There's more, but wait, there's more. Yeah, it's like the OxyClean guy, or like those infomercials. It's giving me like very domestic, the single mom. Yeah, it's like very domestic, like home vibes, very much concerned with the well-being of your family and trying to control everything so that you feel like you have a sense of finality, like that's not constantly leaving you in this in-between zone of the cliffhanger, because that's really like a scary place to be when you don't have an answer, you don't have a conclusion or a solution. It's like everything is kind of teetering on the edge, and that could be the driving motivator that's making you feel so out of control and a slave to this need for external control so that you feel this sense of security. And just looking at like the archetype of the single mom, it makes sense, right? Because it's like you're doing it all on your own, and you're trying to provide for your family, you're trying to create structure, but without doing it with a partner, because the Queen and King of Rings ideally are these two sides that help to hold up the structure. But if you're doing it alone, yeah, it can feel like things are imbalanced, and so you're overcompensating by trying to do everything all the time, or feeling like you need to, whether or not you're successful at that. But it's because it always feels like something's on the edge of falling apart. There's no finality to it. Okay. What else we have here? Venus, give and receive love, find value, and see beauty. Well, since we have a lot of rings here, and we have Venus talking about value here, I really feel like a lot of this may have to do with money and physical security. Now, it doesn't even have to be money in general, but it's like the things that you value. And given what I'm seeing here in this reading, it feels to me, group number 3, like you value that feeling of security that having a controlled environment gives you, like having a clean house and a schedule that's very precise. And maybe you're even that type of person, like very Virgo almost, where you're like planning out increments of your day, like at 10:15 to 12:15, this is what I'm doing. And then from this time to this time, and it's like all blocked out, all scheduled out. Again, the underlying need behind that is to try and have a sense of control, try to have a sense of, like I control my own destiny, I control my own fate. But really it's coming from this wound, or this fear, I should say, really. I mean, the wound is the fear, but it's this fear of everything is teetering on the veg. Eat your veg, kids. Teetering on the edge of destruction, or on the verge of collapse. And it's that underlying motive that is creating the self-sabotage, which may present through an overemphasis on the physical, an overemphasis on things, maybe money, or those external control systems. Could even present through love, but I'm not getting that super strongly. I just need to mention it though, because Venus is here and we have these counterparts. It could be like you're constantly looking for this security through another person, but then giving up your autonomy to gain. It's like you're sacrificing your own autonomy for the false sense of security that another person brings to your life. But if you're doing this alone, then it's really just you're trying to create that sense of security for yourself through that external control. A new start is coming, new moon. Well, that's good. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this little lunchbox here too. It's kind of like, this is made at the beginning of the day. You make this, you put it aside, the kid takes it to school. So it's like preparation. It's a new start. Each new day, you're doing this routine over and over and over again to set things up, trying to set yourself up for success. But I feel like if that's the case, there's a lot of emphasis that's put on, like I said, those physically based security things like food, water, time, money, home, family, like that. And it's a little bit to the detriment of your spiritual authority, your spiritual sovereignty, because when you give your power to the physical world in that way, like to that extent, to give you that sense of security, you're lost in the sauce a little bit because you've abandoned the spiritual security that can come through your divine connection. But that may feel really scary because to surrender to that divine connection would mean that you might have to change how you approach all of these physically based things that give you that sense of comfort. And we have Archon Barbello. I'm gonna read these ones, this card out of the book. But I see the 10 here standing out, and it's right underneath the 10 of rings. So we got two 10s sitting right on top of each other. That is significant. 10s are about completion, endings, and new beginnings. It's like they happen simultaneously. It's like the void space is the 0, which is the unlimited potential for something new, and the 1 is the new beginning. And when you put the 9 being the conclusion, and the 10 is like the final, it's completely over, it's done, and then you're able to move on. But again, we have this to be continued. So what are you repeating? What is this pattern that you're repeating over and over and over again that feels like it's giving you this false sense of control, but deep down you feel like you're not actually able to make your own choices because you maybe have all these obligations, or you feel like compulsively as though you need to do these things just to get by. So I think what you're really desiring here at soul level, and like at a much deeper emotional level, group 3, is to feel this sense of autonomy, to really feel like you can create this sense of security within yourself so that you're not constantly stuck in this loop of being dependent on things outside of you for that security. Maybe even people, like I said, that could be part of it. And if you feel like you never get to the conclusion, like you're constantly on the verge of it, but then you get set back, or you keep kind of having that same pattern go around in circles, there is value there. There's something deeper beneath. Like I see a lot of value. You've got the pearl and you've got the diamond. There's value, but you're just not seeing it. And I think the value is really in your ability to open up and to receive. Venus is all about receiving, seeing the beauty in things. You can appreciate those physical things, but you don't necessarily need to be so reliant on them or a slave to them. Like, don't be a slave to your lifestyle, your way of living. Don't be a slave to money. Don't be a slave to your schedule, even like your routine, Instead, liberate yourself by choosing to experience the true beauty of life, and the value of life is really in your state of loving, your state of, love. I see love, and she's holding her heart here, love. And the hometown is really like connection and love. Okay, let's read this. Oh no, they said not yet. Okay, why? Okay, they took me to the to be continued card again. Oh, they said there's something more about the Looney Tunes reference that I didn't address. It's to do with kids, I think. Because when I think of cartoons and Looney Tunes and stuff like that, it's like to do with kids. And we do have the single mom card here. Whether or not you're a single mom, it's like something to do with children. Hometown makes me think of children. Could have been something to do with where you grew up or how you grew up. What you learned when you were a kid. trying to have this sense of control to provide for your kids if you have them. But the other thing I think of when I think of Looney Tunes is just that like anything is possible in the cartoon world. You can get blown up, you can get dropped off a cliff, you can, get squashed by an anvil or a piano and come back from it. Like you're dazed for a minute, but you're fine. So I think that part of this slave energy and feeling out of control is not being able to trust that everything will be okay. In the end, everything will be okay, because it feels like you're constantly stuck in this no man's land or in between of it's not ideal, but it hasn't fallen apart, but it feels like it's going to. It's almost like you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's like there's this expectation of something's going to go wrong, maybe because something went wrong before in the past, maybe when you were a kid. And I think the good thing about the cartoon reference here is that you can overcome anything. With divine connection, you don't have to be a slave to those limitations or those fear-based expectations. You can really create your own reality, but it's not through exerting this external force of control. It's all internal, and then the external just kind of matches up with that. And it's kind of like you've been going at it from an external perspective where you're like trying to grab life by the horns and just force it through sheer will to be safe. But it just doesn't work like that. Life is unpredictable by nature. That's just how it is. And that's why the only thing that we can control is ourself. How we give and receive love, how we feel valuable within ourselves, the fear that we're willing to address to completely rebuild. Anytime that we feel like we've been broken down or things have been taken away, it's like, how do you rebuild? How do you love and nurture yourself? Maybe that's what the single mom thing is. Maybe you grew up with a single mom and she was always rushing around doing everything, and you felt like, okay, I have to do that too, because she clearly doesn't feel safe or secure, and that wears off on you. You feel that energetically, and that's also what's modeled to you behavior-wise. If that wasn't the case, it just could be that energy that you grew up with or that you are living with now, or both. It's like you kind of got to find a way to reset yourself. That's what I'm seeing there with the jeweler card. It's like you've got to reset yourself because you're this beautiful diamond, and you need to have a secure base. But it's not necessarily through all of these external things. I think that's part of it. That's an important part of it, but it's not the be-all, end-all. It's more like finding a sense of home in you and in people you trust. Because I keep seeing love being a factor here in your reading group 3, so I have to mention it. I think it's finding a sense of secure, like a home base within yourself, and maybe within a partner who you really trust, so that you can feel free to be the authority in your life and have a partner, somebody who supports that, somebody who equally gives and receives love, so that you're not doing everything, so that you feel, safe and supported. You're overdue is what Spirit just said. You're overdue for a fresh start. Number 3. Like you really need, you need a redo, but like completely fresh start, like not a continuation of the old story, something brand new that still gives you that sense of peace, connection, and security that you've really needed all your life. Okay, let's read that book now. Number 10. All right, Archon Barbello. Your biology and gender are creative and powerful means for you to express your soul path. Sometimes you may feel limited by gender constraints or stereotypes, but your spirit can never be restricted or controlled. Embrace the journey of what it feels like to be you in your own body. There is much benefit and healing to be gained through an embrace of your life journey, including the deeper experience of the absolute freedom of your spirit. That's what I'm talking about, freedom of your spirit. That's how you liberate yourself from any kind of mental slavery. But it's interesting that they're talking about gender stereotypes, gender constraints, because we do have Venus, which is like the feminine principle. We have the single mother here, but we also have it balanced, like I said, with the opposite counterpart, which is the king. So we've got the queen and the king. These are the gender binaries that, we have constructed or that we live within. So perhaps there's something here about liberating yourself from a certain role that you feel that you are constrained to. Like if you're the single mom, you feel like you are obligated or you have to fulfill that role, and you have to be the mom and the dad. Or maybe you're a single dad and you feel like a single mom. You know what I mean? It's like these gender constraints don't have to be limiting. They are more fluid. And I think that that's why Venus is here, to help you to embrace that fluidity, which is more connected with your divine presence. Because that surrendered divine presence, it knows that it is not this or that. It is everything. And it is nothing. That's like the 1 and the 0. 1 is like one thing, and 0 is nothing, and also everything. So we have the infinite and the finite constructed in that 10, number 10. And that's why it's the end and beginning. Ooh, so deep. So many messages in this reading for you guys, group 3. All of these readings have been really cool. So for you, what you need to do, like just point blank, is to fully surrender and find that sense of safety within yourself. And it might be something that's a little bit more fluid. It might be something that's a little bit more... maybe you need a little bit more gentleness. Maybe you've just been a little too harsh and you need a little bit of reprieve. You need to relax a bit. You need some time to just enjoy the sensual things of life. But really the main message I'm getting here, and what you need to do to overcome this self-sabotage, is to find a sense of security and create that so that you can feel a sense of control internally and not need to display that externally. Take those shackles off of yourself if you've placed any expectations or obligations or responsibilities on yourself that are not actually aligned with your soul. I would look at those as well. There's certain things that you do need to do, but I think that a lot of what you feel like you need to do is actually not what you need to do. It's just coming from that wound of, if I don't do all of this stuff, everything's going to fall apart, but it won't. And that's where trust comes in. You got to trust yourself, and you got to trust other people too, to be able to pick up the slack. Give them the opportunity to prove that they are capable. All right, so that is what I see for you, group number 3. I hope this reading helped. That is my highest goal, is that it gave you some insight into this pattern for yourself, and perhaps the messages in the reading, or maybe the images in the cards, or synchronicities and confirmations from your own life were helpful through this reading to give you that context and that insight into what to do next. So that is my highest wish. I'm wishing you guys all the best, lots of love and support to overcome this pattern and to free yourself. Okay? I love you guys so much, and we will see you in the next reading. Bye.